Hi, my name is Melissa, and for my leadership interview, I wanted to interview Ted Spiker. He is the chair of the journalism department within the College of Journalism and Communication. The reason I chose Professor Spiker is because I've heard a lot about both my previous students and current colleagues of his. So my professors have mentioned that they really like his open door policy, and that in the years that he's been the chair, I think it's only been a couple of years, but since 2001, he has really changed the way that people have kind of approached the position. So that's just what I've heard, and so that's why I decided to interview Professor Spiker. So some of the things that I noticed about him when I interviewed him, we talked for about half an hour, was that he talked with his hands a lot when he explained something, even if it wasn't like an idea, but just whenever he spoke in general. I thought that was interesting, just because he was very, he sat forward, you can tell that he was interested and very engaged in the conversation. Also, when we were working to set up the interview, he offered me a lot of time slots that he was available. So I thought that was really neat. It wasn't like he just said, I'm only available on this day at this certain specific time. He gave me different days and different times that would work for my schedule. So I thought that was interesting. During the interview, there were a lot of times where he would start an idea and then break off and go off on another idea, but then eventually come back to the first idea. So I thought that was interesting. Whenever I asked him a question, he was not shy about it. He would explain it very thoroughly. And if he couldn't explain it, he would tell me other ways that I might be able to get the answer. But it wasn't anything that affected the main interview questions that much. But it seemed that he always offered more information when I asked him something. So that was really neat. It's always better to get more than less. So yeah. Some of the key leadership traits and qualities that we talked about during the interview, that includes kind of just what he felt as a leader he kind of had that made him a good leader for the department. Included approachability and openness to new ideas. For him, he said a lot of times you'll have colleagues of his who want to try something new or want to try something different, and so for him, being open to those ideas and those new concepts that people have to offer was something that he felt he was good at, because he was all about trying to find new ways to tell stories. Often the journalism field is not one that is full of just innovative ideas, but from the way that he spoke about it, he's bringing a lot of that and allowing a lot of opportunities for that to come into the department, and I think that's really neat. That I've noticed that since in the recent years, for instance, the INC, the Innovation News Center within the college, has hired a lot of people, and that's kind of on the college in its whole. But I think Professor Spiker his presence and his openness to trying new ways to tell stories has been a big part of that. And a lot of things that, so he's very organized as well. He's very much a guy who has a schedule and knows what time he has meetings, and he'll meet those meetings. In the times that I've met with him previously, he's almost never run late or overtime. He's always willing to spend more time with students and colleagues and other faculty members if they have concerns. That's never been an issue that I've heard of. And during our interview, that's the kind of impression that I got from him, is that he's a very timely person, and it helps him stay organized in order to meet with everyone and hear their concerns. He has an open door policy, which I thought was pretty interesting. I don't know how that is by department or just kind of like faculty members as a whole within the university, but sometimes some people can be very hard to get a hold of. That's kind of the vibe that I got from other departments. and just my time at the university, and Ted Spiker doesn't seem to be that type. He was very open and just made his time. Oh, there was something that he mentioned. He said, you know, his position is to serve the students and the faculty of the college and of the department. So if that means there's like a prospective journalism student who wants a tour, like he said he would make time in his schedule to do that, and that's what one of the statements that he made that I thought was really interesting, is that he holds his position accountable to serve not just his bosses, but the people who the department is for. So students, colleagues, faculty members, even prospective students, which I thought was really neat. You don't always see that, so that's what I thought was interesting. One of the statements that he made. My perception after the interview with him is that I came away with kind of an understanding of what it takes to be a leader, just from Ted Spiker's ideas. He has to work a lot with a lot of different types of people, so for him that means being adaptable. That's another trait that he mentioned, that he tries to emphasize in his leadership skills, is to be adaptable, because he's working with a lot of different types of people who have a lot of different types of needs, so he has to be able to meet every single one of them in a way that isn't very stoic or allows for room for change in his own ideas. He is also one other statement that he made that I have written down is that he said, good leaders look for ways to improve. And I thought that was interesting. The feeling that I got, my perception after our interview, is that he's not the type of person who just waits for change to happen, or becomes complacent with what he knows and what his skills are. He always seems to, if there's something that he's not well versed in, like he'll become well versed in. For instance, like social media has been something that they've been emphasizing at the J School, and Ted Spiker, Professor Spiker himself, is becoming media savvy too. Like he is always on Twitter and finding new ways to engage with students and like the journalism department as a whole. Finding new ways to engage with them through social media, which is not a skill that a lot of people emphasize or a lot of people are aware of, but it's something that he has added to his plate. So with his statement, like good leaders look for ways to improve, I thought that was really interesting, that he made a point to acknowledge that in order to serve like your followers or your a group of people, you have to look for ways to improve. And so that was kind of my perception of him after our interview, is that he was the type of person who would always look for new ways to tell different stories, and that he would be asking the same from his own followers. And so it was very much a two-way street, which is something that he mentioned as well, that leadership is a relationship between two parties, and he is not into a very authoritative leadership style, and he's not very much a fan of just one type of leadership style. And he felt that if a follower or a student needed a more authoritative or a more supportive leadership style, that he would adapt to it. So I thought that was really interesting. But yeah.